Hello, fellow travelers. You know those weird feelings you get sometimes that you can't explain? Well, Doctor Strange is about to explain the out of them. Buckle up. They're nothing. I mean, that's what he says. Or at least they're usually nothing if you ask people. Or I guess if people ask him. He has this great line.
Odds are your home isn't haunted. I'm sure it's a lovely house and all, but I doubt it's so amazing that people would literally come from beyond the grave just to hang out there.
And that's our opening for Volume 3, Eaters of Magic. The dialogue is over people at a park. The kid is driving a remote control car, his dogs chase it, and then they stop and start barking. And Strange leaves us with the realization that he's lying when he says your feelings are nothing. He just figures people can't handle the truth, which is you're never alone. Yikes. So yeah, the next page is open to the real world. I'm saying that with air quotes. Picture two hands doing that annoying finger thing. Real world in black and white. And Doctor Strange is running through the park in his birthday suit with all the supernatural in color. It's cool contrast, actually. Like, the way we see the world is bland and the way he sees it through his third eye is brilliant, colorful and stuff. It's actually really neat. So here we find out... Oh, by the way, I'm Nathan. This is some of the additional content for Aquabat leading into a longer series that we're going to be doing. And this is the Doctor Strange Fancast. Whoops, just totally skipped the intro. What? Okay, so here we find out that Strange woke up a few minutes ago in his astral form, naked, in Central Park, and some sort of slugs are now chasing him. They're called... Oh god, and I'm probably going to screw up the pronunciation here. Ian Gawari. Okay, slugs. They aren't native to this dimension like the other strange magical parasites he's starting to come across more often. They feed on magic. He comes across the axe of Anguirus. Really just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Comes across that axe, which the slugs were apparently trying to eat because it's magical. So he grabs it from them and gets biblical. Interesting side note, he acquired the axe from a witch's crypt in the center of the moon. What? Where is that story? I want to read that. As he starts laying waste with it, the dogs look confused. Interesting that they could see it. I'll have to look up some stuff on that. As a result of him starting to, slay it, they run off yipping. Is it yipping? Whatever. Strange killed the whole group of slugs, so what's a grouping of slugs even called? I'm gonna take a start page break. Give me 1 second.
She
Okay, a group of slugs is called a cornucopia. How about that? As Strange starts to take stock of the situation, he begins to see the slugs are everywhere, eating anything magical, I guess, and they're starving. The implication being that the Empirical are creating conditions for them to starve in other dimensions. Jason lays out some interesting rules here with magic, or at least how magic works for Doctor Strange. He doesn't create magic. And remember, when I say create, I'm using the really annoying finger quotes. Please remember that. Create. Can you hear it? I'm doing it. Magic. He just channels the magic around him. So let me step back here and talk about Jason Aaron. He's worked for several publishers, including DC, Marvel, and Image, and others. He and I both moved to Kansas City area in about 2000. No, I didn't know him. There are, surprisingly, more than 2 people in Kansas City. Haha, just kidding, Kansas City. I'm sorry. He's written for a lot of the major comic characters at this point, but looks like he spent a lot of time on Thor. Now, I never got into Thor in the comics. I, however, love Chris Hemsworth's version of Thor. I am a huge fan of Fat Thor. I know a lot of people are like, shut up, go back to your basement. He's hilarious. Given my turn around recently with Doctor Strange, I guess recently is the past few years, ever since the original movie, or not the original movie, that was in 78, I haven't seen it yet, but the MCU movie, thanks to that one, I've been turned around. And, you know, the fact that Jason Aaron's writing here is just so awesome, it looks like I may need to look into some of his Thor runs and just give him a shot. Jason's writing so far has been bipolar, because it's really out there, but also grounded. I don't know how he does it. He drops these insanely ridiculous ideas, then turns around and gives them these fundamentally grounded explanations. It's brilliant. It's clever. I've definitely become a fan of his since I started reading this run of Doctor Strange. Okay, speaking of insane and ridiculous, boom, casting skills. Doctor Strange reaches into his mouth and pulls out his heart. What? It is, or maybe it represents, all of the magic he had in his astral form. So when I guess when they say they channel magic and he doesn't create it, their bodies must be like batteries so they can store it up, I'm assuming. So he turns his heart that he pulled out from his mouth in his astral form into a bomb, which he chucks at the slugs. This in turn causes everyone in Harlem, all the way to Hell's Kitchen, to start puking. Gross. Strange calls it mystical, and remember, I'm using the annoying hands air quotes thing, remember? I'm milking the shit out of this today, by the way, because it annoys me, so I'm going to annoy you guys with it. Mystical aftershocks. Quotes. He manages to sneak a ride on a flying slug back to his house, where lots of slugs are trying to eat it. He manages to get inside through the circular window, which is, pretty iconic at this point. It's pretty unique, kind of hard to forget. And we find Wong inside, dual-wielding swords and going to town on the slugs. There's a quick joke when Strange tells Wong he needs to give him a raise, and Wong says he'd settle for a week's vacation somewhere quiet and boring. Strange tells him, "You're going to love Cleveland." I think that's funny. Sorry, Cleveland. I'm just pissing off all the cities today. Or you guys totally relate, you don't find it offensive at all. Hopefully it's the latter. As Strange enters his body, and Pete. There's a couple girls walking outside commenting on how they don't understand why people love Manhattan so much. The whole place smells like vomit. So they're going back to Cleveland. But nice, quick joke payoff there. Meanwhile, next to them, there's like a colorful magic explosion of sorts happening in the background. The slugs, we find out, are in a food coma now because it turns out the color explosion was Strange feeding them all of the magic they could handle. Turns out In the morning, Strange had opened a door in his house to Fanazar Fu, and there was a magical shockwave that knocked him, or I guess knocked his astral body out of him, and sent it like flying across the city. Apparently, the slugs are from there, and it's supposed to have more magic than Manhattan. I mean, doesn't sound too hard, but I guess the slugs, because they were starving, that's why they entered our dimension, which means, ta-da! Fanazar Fu, the next point between dimensions, is dried up. It's a husk. It's basically just ash. As Strange and Wong are trying to figure out what could possibly have the power to destroy so much magic, they end up coming across all these tortured and impaled Sorcerer Supremes. Or Sorcerers Supreme. They pluralize sorcerers in the book, but when I say it out loud, it sounds like it should be Sorcerer Supremes. But they said Sorcerers Supreme. Okay, we'll go with that. It dawns on them that there wasn't a natural disaster that caused this. This was a straight-up execution. And they're baffled by, like, what could possibly have the power to execute the most powerful sorcerers known? I mean, it's a good question. Strange knows now that he needs to find out who, not what, is doing this. And from here we transition to a dog. Not the dogs in the park, but like a scary looking dog. Turns out it's called a Witchfinder Wolf, and it's got like tech shit on its back, or it looks like armor of some kind. It's the ones I was talking about in a previous cast. Transitioning to the empirical, we get some pretty gnarly graphics while the ballhead guys talk. And I didn't say bald, I said ball. B-A-L-L. It's all old school torture shit happening in the background while people are screaming everywhere. It's an uncomfortable thing to think about. Robots deciding that, exterminating magic, but doing it in this 16th century holy purge kind of way. I mean, they even talk like religious zealots. It's just disturbing. Oh shit, I forgot. They call it an inquisition. So I mean, even more parallels. Oh damn. Praise the empirical. They talk to a human-looking guy called the Imperator. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who happens to be fapping a giant beastie. Fap. And then he laser eyes the thing to death. Praise the empirical and death to magic. That's his carrion call there. Clarion call? It's clarion call. Bleh. Man, that got dark quick. Alright, so quick reality check here. Animals seeing into multiple dimensions. So there's a lot of talk on the internet about that, most of which I'm just going to assume is complete and utter bullshit. But a lot of animals can actually see in ultraviolet light, like cats and dogs, for example, which does lend some credence to the popular myth that animals can see spirits. I don't know what I think about it. I just know that my cat used to constantly stare at a specific corner in my house when I first moved into the house. I had a situation. And, after I'd been living there for a little bit and kept dealing with it, I took some steps and then never had the problem again. And meanwhile, my cat never bothered to go back to that corner after I did the purging, we'll say. Well, I can't confirm anything. I mean, it does make me wonder, but the world's an amazing place, so I don't know. But that's about it. Stay safe. Stay weird. This was a quick cast.